But let's say the light of the moon modulates your civilization. The sun is there. Can't change the sun, really. But the moon transduces this information. It rules the night, so to speak, even though you can see it during the day. It rules the emotions. It goes deep into the unconscious and subconscious mind. And without the moon, your world would be a completely different place. In other words, in order to develop your civilization as it is developed, the moon was needed. It keeps things in balance.
But you say it's a construct.
It is a construct, meaning that it didn't just so happen to be there because it just so happened to form itself, and it just so happens to be floating around there. And just so happens to be, or appears to be, the same size as the sun. Mm-hmm. When the moon is, if you were to put the moon up against the sun, the moon is less than a grain of sand. So it was placed, and the moon has been closer and further away at different times. The moon has a powerful effect on the gravitational and magnetic forces that flow, and in those terms you have some outside of the box thinking scientifics who are recognizing that magnetism and the center of gravity may not be on Earth at all. May not be on Earth at all. May be someplace between the Earth and the moon. You see, the science that you are currently operating under is incorrect. And we don't mean to offend anyone who is a scientific person, etc., because in general, people set out to prove something, and then they can prove it because they expect to prove it based on their beliefs and their instrumentation, etc., etc. But the problem that you have reached as a species is that you have, the scientifics think they are gods. And they think that they have figured things out and that all reality can be explained. And yet you have short-circuited yourself in terms of understanding reality, because scientifics do not seed consciousness in all things. They do not seed the idea that the sun is interactive and alive. However, because of the probes that have recently been sent up in the last few years, there's been more probes going to the sun than ever before, because the scientific, some of them, they won't publish this, but they are astounded, they are freaking out, they are in shock, because they realize that the sun is directly responding to their thoughts through the instrumentation. And they are frightened. They are frightened. It is like the sun is thought of as some big thing being there. And suddenly you have instrumentation that's going closer, and the sun senses the instrumentation, and it sort of goes through the instrumentation into the minds of those way back on Earth observing what the instrumentation is showing. And the sun is responding to the individual thoughts of those watching the machinery. And of course, this cannot be leaked out. And so suddenly what they thought was just there realizes that you are there watching it. That's why we said to you, say hi to the sun. The sun knows exactly what you are doing. It knows what you are learning. It is an extreme sentient being. This is why yesterday, in our discussion last night, and our vehicle was bringing this up also with you, this sun as being a very old symbol or sigil or power representation, a symbol that was used in an exalted position by so many, many societies and civilizations around your world. They understood and could communicate with the sun. This is what your world is those, some global elite people know this. They have records of old civilizations, Egyptian, Sumerian, Atlantean, all these things. And they understand the power of the sun. They understand that the sun can be used as a portal for other beings to come enter your reality. Last night the question of Stargate came up, remember?
Yeah.
And one could say that the sun is part of the Stargate system. We suggested that Stargates are portals and that they can be mini and they can be maxi. And various cultures built their gates of the sun. You have the Gate of the Sun, one of the famous ones you have, we believe, in Mexico. You have Gate of the Sun in Tiwanaku, that is highlands of Bolivia, up in the Altiplano. You have this idea of the sun being a portal, and so what happens is beings can use from where they're coming, they jump to the sun, and then from the sun on Earth people built these literal gateways. They look like nothing really. You would think, what can it be? It's just as an archway. Yet it is through that archway, through the stone, and of course the energy in the earth, because all of these old civilizations had innate abilities to detect the areas where there were magnetic anomalies. And wherever the magnetic energy of Earth has an anomaly, meaning that it is out of the usual flow, it is unusual, it is different, there is some kind of complexity there. This is always highlighted by paranormal experiences. In other words, these stargates and these entries from the sun into your Earth can often be found where there are these magnetic and gravitational fluctuations. And again, as we mentioned last night, there is a big move in the last 20 years to get into position and to set up a war zone area, which allows all kind of commerce and all kinds of other people to come in. It looks like it's a war. The war's a front for being in that location. And when we're talking about Iran, Iraq, Afghan, Pakistan, you are talking about the territory of the old visitors. And some of these visitors from long ago were very, very, very large in stature. And they were the ones who would come back and forth and visit and use the sun to jump from where they came from into the Stargate. Now we know that there's the whole story about planets coming around and coming closer, and that's part of it. But you must understand that beings who are going to live millions of years in your terms of time, such beings are going to have capabilities far beyond driving their ships to your Earth. Do you understand this? And these beings that we are speaking of, they have come down in time to eventually be the Yahweh, sort of Judeo-Christian God of the Bible. But they are not prime creator. They are not the force that is in all things. The true application of the God force, goddess force if you want to call it that, is the innate creative all that is all that is everywhere in all things. You can call that God. But most of what your Earth refers to as God is visitors who have come here through the dimensions, who were very powerful, who could live, as we said, millions of years, and who are still alive, and who your global elite believe are going to return. And if you look in your old stories, they promise that they will return. And so part of what is expected now, and part of why the blocking of the sun and shutting people down from the sun, because they don't want these, they're afraid of who's going to gain control. They're afraid that they're going to lose control over the people, and they are going to lose the energetic source here. So there's lots of confusion about who's who, and lots of confusion in the coming and goings to your planet. Let's keep this subject up. Who else has a comment or something on this? Don't be shy.
Please, could you talk a little bit about...
Who is it, please?
Randy.
Randy?
About such portals in Ireland. I'm going to be spending some time there, and I want to make some connections. And I know there's some very ancient portals within our Western world.
Ireland is ripe and rich with these portals because many of the Irish people have not let go of the old way. Just across the waterways, in England and Scotland, there's been more of a washing away of some of these things.